And now it's time for my real thoughts on the 100th episode of My Little Pony. I don't know how the writers managed to pull it off when they're not supposed to be paying attention to fan works and fan fictions and so forth, but the DHX staff is definitely aware of what the bronies care about, and they even have some of their own unique ideas to throw into the mix. Old Ma Larson did it again. The episode starts off in a way reminiscent to the very first episode of the series, with the opening of a book and the pages flipping through a story, albeit this one, the memories of Cranky and Matilda, is told by photographs as opposed to the Legend of Nightmare Moon. Then we immediately get to the fans' absolute favorite, the reappearance of Derpy and her once again having a speaking voice, and not just for that one line that canonized her job as a mail mare and her love for muffins, but for the entirety of the episode, wherein she has now played a major role. I think the thing that fans love about Derpy was actually caused by one of her greatest tragedies. If it wasn't for the whole Derpy date debacle, where the parents and so forth got upset at how offensive Derpy was being, if they hadn't pulled her out of the series, if they hadn't changed her voice, if they hadn't straightened her eyes, if it hadn't been for that earlier controversy, our excitement about her character being brought back, it would not be as exciting. If she had gone through her first talking role and continued on without controversy, she would not be the interesting character she is now. Part of what makes Derpy interesting is the drama she's overcome. And of course we also get Dr. Hobbs canonizing that he's a doctor and that he has a love for math and science, a British accent, and some of the mannerisms of Doctor Who, which he is based on. But he also has mannerisms of Dr. Brown from Back to the Future, the way he says Great Wickering Stallions as opposed to Great Scott. That's very Doc Brown. And he also has some of the absent-mindedness that we see in the Absent-Minded Professor movies. We see the return of the Big Lebowski pony, which is an interesting choice, considering that he was only there for a few seconds in one episode. We got Lyra and Bon Bon canonized as best friends, although some fans are reading into it as more than friends. The thing that came out of left field that was completely unexpected was Bon Bon having both the name Bon Bon and the name Sweetie Drops, and both being correct names for identifying her, and then giving her that backstory of being a secret agent in a sort of Men in Black style past life of capturing monsters in secret and having all these epic heroic journeys that she can't have anymore because the organization isn't around anymore, and it's all because of this bugbear that the organization fell apart and she had to go into hiding. We also know that Bon Bon from last season, in the flashback, she had the glasses on and she was with Pinkie Pie in Ponyville when Pinkie Pie first came to Ponyville. So Bon Bon was in Ponyville, then became a secret agent, then returned to Ponyville. Somewhere along the line, her eyes improving and her no longer needing glasses, but occasionally liking to put on sunglasses. Or it could be possibly that the whole secret agent thing is something that she was eccentric and crazy enough to make up. But anyhow, it is interesting that when the fans have given Lyra all of the eccentric personalities and made Bon Bon the normal one, it was interesting to see Bon Bon be the eccentric one with the deep dark secrets and have Lyra be the normal one. Of course they can't give Lyra the hands obsession or any references to the mirror or the human world or anything else anatomy related, but they were able to slip in a few lines that may or may not have been references to popular fan animations. The design of the bugbear creature that the ponies were fighting in the background reminded me a lot of an old cartoon/toy line called The Wuzzles, which was a series all about combining and mixing and matching different parts of different animals to have two unrelated fins form a single creature. I almost wonder if Hasbro's taking a jab at the old toy line. Then we got to see Vinyl and Octavia, and was perhaps one of the best sequences from the episode because they play music together and the song is amazing to listen to, amazing to watch, and it takes up a better half of the story. And it leads directly into the crazy Wubmobile thing rampaging down the street, piling ponies up in a huge pyramid and carrying them all to the wedding. Which I thought Bon Bon and Lyra's dialogue and the existence of this Wubmobile crashing into ponies and sending all of them and a sofa too, pyramiding on top of the contraption, were two very ridiculous things, but I can see that as not the worst of the episode and just little nitpicking. It still fits in with the whole cartoon logic of the series. Man, the Vinyl Scratch and Octavia thing felt like it was directed by J.J. Abrams just from the amount of lens flares that were happening during that performance. Got to see the spa ponies again, and we got to see the sea serpent, who we haven't seen at all since the second part of the pilot episode. And also he has a name of Stephen Magnet, which was something that has never been said on the show officially, but of which many fans were aware that Stephen Magnet was his name for some previous reasons. I don't know the whole backstory behind it, but this is my first time hearing that name, and I didn't know it was a pre-existing name, but it's canon now. We saw the flower ponies again, repeating the running gag that was started with the bunny stampede of them fainting over every little travesty. The Trilotane reappeared for some random reason, and then Dummy too with his inner monologue, which definitely gave us some insight into his character. Luna and Celestia acting like sisters as opposed to acting like princesses was definitely a fun little experience, and it'd be nice to see more of that throughout the series. As we went through the wedding, we got a random changeling for some reason, whether he was invited or whether he snuck in, is sort of he was just sitting out there in the open with ponies afraid to sit near him, and him just sort of looking at them like, he doesn't care. He's just going to keep sitting here, minding his own business. And is this the start of more time and more screen time, more airtime, more speaking lines for the background ponies, now that they've spoken and now that they're voiced by regular members of the MLP staff and not guest stars that you have to bring in special? now that they have established backstories and personalities and voices, and the fans have accepted this, will we see more of them in the future? Will they have more important roles in the coming up episodes, in the coming up seasons? Will they be able to do more episodes on just the background ponies? Or maybe a spin-off series, or 2 or 3 or 4. There's a lot of information that could have been handled a little bit better. A lot of background ponies did not get lines or individual scenes. This could have been solved by doing what they did with Amethyst Star. That could have been the ideal length for each background pony to get their characterization, and they could have fit in more background canonization short stories if they'd all been the Amethyst Star runtime, instead of overextending the stories of Dr. Hooves, Derpy, Lyra, Bonbon, Octavia, and Vinyl. If they'd all cut the thing in half, runtime-wise, they could have fit more short stories into the episode and had a much faster pace to it. But at the same time, we would have lost some of the fun of what we did get. Some fans will have preferred there have been more short stories, and other fans will prefer that the short stories had been longer short stories. I was actually very surprised that Trixie didn't appear in this episode, but considering that Trixie wasn't there, the Wonderbolts weren't there, it felt like this was mostly Ponyville Pony's time to shine, with the exception of Shining Armor, Cadence, and the other 2 princesses. It was all Ponyville characters. We didn't get any Canterlot characters. We didn't get Fancy Pants. We didn't get Prince Blue Blood. We didn't get any Manhattan characters. We didn't get any Apple Family characters. We didn't get any Cloudsdale characters. This was all on Ponyville. We didn't even get Toto Pomel or Cheese Sandwich or any of the major key givers either. And no diss toward it either. I hope he's not mad at being not invited to the wedding, otherwise we're going to have more schmooze down the line. Another thought about this series is that this episode might actually be one that non-fans could enjoy. The first episode of The Simpsons that I watched was the episode where The Simpsons did a similar plot, and they did a whole string of short stories about minor characters and ignored the main cast. Just as I was able to follow that without knowing the main characters or without having reason to get excited about seeing my favorite background characters expanded upon, I think a non-fan could also enjoy this much in the same way. In a way, we are all background to each other's lives. Every day we pass by people who are in the background of our lives, and we don't pay them any attention. But to them, we are the background of their lives, just as unimportant to them as they are unimportant to us. And just as we have interesting lives and friends and families and places to go and things to see, so do they also have interesting things to do, and lives and families and hobbies and friends and all sorts of things to do. They all have their own unique stories that would be interesting if you gave them a chance. Some may be more interesting than others. But it was definitely a fun episode, and definitely a fun series of reactions from the Brony crowd. But that's all I have to say about this topic for now. Leave any thoughts you had on this amazing episode in the comments section below.